What's up, everyone? This is BigPowner, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys everything that you need to know about the Blight maps, their place in the league, how profitable they are, what ring annoyments I use, what annoyments I would recommend using for your maps, and then just kind of like a profitability and like my analysis as far as the changes to everything and what I'm finding the most profitable. So, for starters, I'm just gonna let you guys know the zone attachments for maps, like inside of each zone, do not affect blight maps. It's not an Atlas item. When they first released all the stuff, the zones, they specifically said that it wouldn't, unless they wind up changing that, they don't. So spending more for a specific zone to try to get advantage off of those things, you're just wasting currency. It's misinformation. Second, the for a long time when blight maps first came out, people were taking and creating them like this, like rolling them like regular maps. When Blight first came out, Blight maps were super, super expensive because it was the league mechanic and they were like really hard to get. Um, league after league, they became more and more common until, the last several leagues, they've just been so cheap that basically people just completely stopped doing anything to them besides throwing them in and starting them, which the way it was before, the quantity and rarity only affected the loot explosion. It's basically only affected the items that would be dropping from the monsters that you killed. And that's what your loot explosion is. So with the new patch now, the quantity and rarity that's on the maps is now going to affect the blight nodes that have your rewards in them. So now it's more advantageous to buff up the maps because it's going to affect all of your rewards. So this is definitely something that most people are going to want to be doing. As far as making the map doable, I'm going to give you guys some caution. There's some mods that are just going to make these maps, like, you might be comfortable doing the map, and then there's some mods or combination of mods that will make the map absolutely uncompletable in some situations. The general things that I'm going to tell you to be aware of on your maps is more monster speed, more monster HP. These are two things that unless you have just ridiculous damage, which a lot of people early league are not going to, um, like, obviously, once we get to like an end game build and my elemental hit build has 50 million DPS, I'm not going to really care about movement speed or or HP because I'm going to basically insta kill the bosses, and it's not going to be an issue. I can just sit at the pump and just shoot outwards and everything dies. But if you are running the maps and they're already hard, or like, you can do it every time, but you really got to be paying attention. If you add movement speed or more HP, this is going to create a situation where you're probably going to lose. So that's two things that you definitely want to be aware of. And then you're going to want to be aware of things that counter your build. Like, if I'm running triple curses and that's where a lot of my damage is coming from, I obviously don't want to be playing a hexproof map if I'm comfortable killing the stuff, but if you take away, over half of my damage that I'm dealing, then I'm probably not going to be able to kill the bosses, and I'm probably going to wind up getting overran and wind up losing the map. So things specific to your character, or the two most obvious ones, would be like, I'm playing an elemental damage build. I obviously can't have elemental reflect. If you're playing a physical build, you can't have physical reflect. Those are the main things that I would say about rolling your maps. There's a lot of mods that are just like basically like free quantity. like, area contains totems. Like, no, it doesn't, but thank you for the quantity. There's a lot of stuff like that. But just pay attention to that stuff. And the big things to avoid, my suggestions on that would be avoid movement speed, HP, unless you just have crazy damage, and killing the stuff is a non-issue. Like, you have an exorbitant damage to where it's not going to matter. Um, you can now vol them. You can put fragments in for an extra, 20% quantity, 5 per each one. So you could do that also. Other than that, that's pretty much that there. You can vol them and try to go for 8 stats. I've done some of those. I've done one up to 130%. Honestly, the rewards weren't anything like crazy noticeably better. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. You got to decide whether you want to risk the hassle of trying to resell a map that possibly winds up with, like if you're an elemental character, you wind up with elemental reflect, and you're just like, oh great, well now I got to sell the map probably for a small loss, and someone's got to buy it, which kind of comes into the taking a small loss because you've probably already put oils on it, and they have to be oils that people want to play with for them to buy it. So you're probably not going to get you're probably not going to get your full money out of it. It probably won't be a full loss though. You'll probably get something back. Okay, so the most important things I would say is the oils. I've tested a lot of this stuff. As far as making it easy, amber oils. If you're trying to find out if you're strong enough to use it to play these, start off with amber oils. They give you reduced cost of buildings. You could start off with, like one of them, two of them. Basically, if you're trying to do blight maps and you're like, I'm not completely sure, but I want to try it out, amber oils are great. That's pretty much the only thing that I use as far as like really early league. If I'm like, I don't know if my build's strong enough, I'll probably start off with an amber oil, see how that goes. If it's a non-issue, then get rid of the amber oils and go for full currency. As far as rewards, they've completely changed around the oils. There's some that are still the same, but they've added a bunch of new stuff. And some of the stuff that used to be more valuable is less valuable as far as earning the most currency, because I think that that's what everyone is the most concerned with, is making the most out of the maps. There's kind of a balance as to what you're going to be putting in and what you're going to be getting out. Like taking and putting something in that's going to give us an extra reward, 25% chance. Um, that sounds great, but when the cost is really really high, you have to be like, is it really going to be worth it? And honestly, I've never found the gold oils, even when their prices go down, to be worth it, just because the amount of cost that's coming out of it usually doesn't wind up returning that cost consistently. The new things that I would say are definitely seem to be worth it at the current price tag. Opalescence oil is only 9 chaos, and it gives us 15 blight chests that are lucky. What the lucky blight chest does is it's the type of rewards that the chest is giving. This is like, makes it so that we can get scarabs out of them, which, scarabs are a really good reward. So the lucky chests are honestly my favorite reward because it changes what the reward's actually going to be. If I take and use, triple gold oils and I've got a 75% chance for extra reward, if all of the nodes are just trash nodes, like, the armor and weapons, and it's just dropping me more rare items than like just regular gold items, then I'm probably not going to make anything out of that outside of just getting really lucky on an ID. Well, I'm not going to make anything outside of getting really lucky on an ID. So that's the reason why I definitely don't feel like the gold oil is worth that. Maybe like throwing it in a mix could possibly wind up working out, but I honestly wouldn't use it at all. It's kind of like a black oil, but with a lot less potency in it. The black oils I used to like because they used to be a 10% chance. They now are only a 6% chance. And I don't think it's worth it. And the reason why is because now we have violet oils, which actually work a lot stronger. With one, you have a 20% chance to have an additional reward chest. This means for each one of the nodes that are on the end of it, you could have an extra chest, which means more total rewards. Which is better, to have one extra reward in a node or to have a whole nether node? And 20% chance for something that costs one chaos versus 25% chance for a single reward, for, I think these are like 67 chaos. So definitely, I feel like this is better just in general, um, than the single extra reward chance. The cheapest, the best bang for the buck would be double crimson and a violet. If you want to go up from there, I would say either triple opalescent or double opalescent and one violet. Those are what seem to be giving me the best rewards. I mean, I don't have hundreds of maps at this point, but I've got quite a bit. So that's what I'm using now. Um, and with the prices of them, I would say pretty much every single map you should be going at least like triple crimson or two crimson, one violet, unless you're basically testing to find out if you're strong enough to do it. Then I would swap out. I would do crimson and then swap in ambers basically to test to see if you're capable of doing it. Okay, so let's talk about ring anointments. The thing that I'm going to say is you 100% absolutely should have ring anointments if you're planning on doing blight maps. They just give you such a massive advantage. Um, as far as ring anointments, there's only three things that I really use. Meteor towers drop an extra meteor. Meteor towers cause the ground to burn, and meteor towers always stun. A combination of these three is what I'm going to recommend. Earlier in the league, I would have just flat out said, just go with burning ground. Meteor always stuns because these are like super cheap, like cost you a couple C. The meteor drops an additional meteor, uses an opalescent, but now it's opalescent and verdant, so that's only 10 chaos. So I would say just go whichever one it is that you like. The advantage, disadvantage of each one of these: meteor tower always stuns, makes it so that your damage tower is also giving some crowd control because it's stunning them. I like the stun with the burns ground. Burns ground is nice. It's not going to be as much damage as the extra meteor. The extra meteor is going to have the biggest punch because it's doubling the amount of meteors, so 2 meteors fall instead of one. Um, the nice thing about the meteor burns the ground is that if you have like a shieldy guy, and it hits, the shield protects them, but then they still burn from the burning ground. So that's kind of nice, especially if you're combining those with the stun towers, the seismic towers that stun, or with the ice towers that lock them in place. The combination of burning ground with those things work really nicely. So if you need more damage, if you just want the most damage flat out, you could go burning ground and double meteor. Or if you want kind of like that nice combination, go meteor always stuns with either double meteor for the biggest punch or the burns ground to give it kind of like that utility or that damage where it's going to wind up hurting everything, instead of just and instead of some enemies being able to basically avoid the damage of the meteor. So that's pretty much it. Besides the profitability, I'd say that average profit that you should suspect. I've been spending 40 to 50 C, sometimes less. Like it's not very common that they're less. In the last like 3 days, less than 40. Sometimes you'll pick up one for like 30, 35, something like that. But 40 to 45, I would say you shouldn't be spending more than than like 50. If a bunch of people are like blight maps, because of the video, then maybe supply um supply is going up, but I'm saying if more people are going after them to do them, the prices could come up a little bit. There'll still be margins for average profits. I would say average profit per map is probably about half an EX. So this would make it so that you could expect, if you can run 4 maps per hour, which I think is maybe realistic. Maybe it would only be 3, depending on how good you are at clearing the loot and stuff like that, and setting them up and then running them and stuff like that. You're probably looking at like consistently 1.5 EX to 2 EX. That being said, you can have really nice runs where you get a bunch of good stuff. Like I had one run. I got a relinquary key. I got the Spore Guard gloves. I got a divination card that was 1.4 EX, and then I got a bunch of small stuff. So probably came away with like 6 EX profit. But that's not the currency that I'm talking about. That's kind of like I got lucky on some drops. Consistently, though, I'd say you can expect about half an exalt in currency um, that you can rely on. This isn't counting drops like items that aren't instant sells. So this is only me counting stuff that's easily liquidated. I would say about half an exalt per map. This is also regarding tier 13, 14, 15, 16 maps. The reason why your profitability is going to go down when you go below tier 13 is because you remove the ability for golden oils to drop. So the goal should be to be playing at least tier 13. Anyways, I hope that this video has been helpful. Thanks for watching. I will catch you guys later. Peace.